You are on the channel Topical. Today we're getting straight into the recent news about Billy Joel. Obviously, the big story is the cancellation of his upcoming tour dates, and we want to look into the details around his health that have come out. So our mission here is really to understand the situation based on what we know so far, the health condition, the timeline, all of that.
That's right. The main thing happened on Friday, May 23rd, 2025. That's when the announcement came that all of his upcoming concerts are off.
A complete cancellation then, not just postponements this time.
Exactly. And the reason given, it's a specific diagnosis, normal pressure hydrocephalus, NPH for short.
NTH. Okay, that's probably a term many of us aren't familiar with. Maybe you can break that down a bit.
Sure. Basically, NPH involves having too much cerebrospinal fluid inside the brain. Now, you often hear about hydrocephalus maybe with babies, but this specific type, NPH, it usually affects older adults.
Older adults. Okay.
Yeah, and it's considered, well, pretty rare. Yale Medicine calls it very rare, actually. Fewer than 3% of adults over 65 get it, and it seems to hit men and women about equally.
So under 3% over 65, it's not exactly common. And this fluid buildup, it's inside the skull, putting pressure on the brain.
That's the mechanism, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Fox News had a good description. The cerebrospinal fluid builds up, presses on the brain tissue, and that pressure causes the symptoms.
Right, the symptoms. What have we heard about those in Billy Joel's case?
The reports mention issues with hearing, vision, and, importantly, balance.
Balance. Okay.
And what's quite significant is the statement that these symptoms have been, and I quote, exacerbated by recent concert performances.
Wow. So performing was actually making it worse.
That's tough. It suggests a direct link between the physical demand of his shows and the condition flaring up.
And this isn't the first health-related incident recently, is it? I seem to remember something about a fall on stage.
You do. That was back in February. He was performing at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, did his classic mic toss and spin move, and took a tumble.
Right.
He got up, seemed okay, finished the show. But, looking back now, with balance being a key NPH symptom, maybe that fall was an early sign.
It certainly makes you wonder, doesn't it? And then after the fall, there were postponements announced, too.
Yes, that came in March. They announced that concerts through June were being postponed. The reason cited then was a medical condition that needed physical therapy following some kind of recent surgery.
A surgery was mentioned then.
Yes, though the details weren't specified at the time. But back in March, the tone seemed more optimistic. His team said he was expected to make a full recovery.
Right, I remember that. The plan was for the tour to start back up in July.
July 5th in Pittsburgh was the date they gave. They mentioned physical therapy under doctor's orders. Billy Joel himself put out a statement saying he regretted postponing, but, health had to come first, and he was looking forward to getting back out there.
So there was hope initially. What changed?
Well, the NTH diagnosis seems to be the game changer, although it's interesting, NPH is often treatable.
Treatable? How so?
The primary treatment, according to places like the Cleveland Clinic, is actually surgery. They implant something called a shunt.
Shunt?
Yeah, it's basically a small tube system that drains the excess cerebrospinal fluid away from the brain, usually down into the abdomen, where the body can just absorb it. It relieves the pressure.
Huh. So maybe that explains the initial optimism back in March. Perhaps they thought surgery and therapy would be enough.
It's definitely possible. If surgery was performed or planned, maybe they hoped for a quicker recovery. But now, the situation seems to be that ongoing management is needed.
Which brings us to the current situation and the full cancellation.
Exactly. The latest is that he is undergoing specific physical therapy for the NPH, following his doctor's instructions. And crucially, he's been advised to stop performing during this recovery period.
So performing is definitely off the table for now. Health has to be the absolute priority.
Absolutely. He said acknowledging fan support, but emphasizing that focus on health. And there was a sincere apology issued for the disappointment this obviously causes.
Understandable. And the cancellations, they're widespread, right? Affecting quite a few dates.
Oh, yeah. It's everything that was scheduled. We're talking New York City shows this summer, New Orleans, Toronto, out west in Santa Clara, Salt Lake City, D.C., even a date in Liverpool.
Liverpool, too. Wow.
And importantly, this includes those 8 shows that were already postponed back in March. So add it all up, and it's 17 concerts canceled in total.
17 shows. That's a lot of fans who had plans disrupted. What about tickets? Do people need to apply for refunds?
Thankfully, no. The information is that fans don't need to take any action.
It's good news for ticket holders, at least. Makes it a bit easier.
Definitely one less thing for them to worry about.
Let's circle back to NPH for a sec. We mentioned the fluid buildup and the shunt treatment. What else is sort of key to understanding it?
Well, one interesting thing is the normal pressure part of the name. It often means that if you do a spinal tap, the pressure reading of the fluid might actually seem normal, even though there's too much of it overall. Can make it tricky to diagnose sometimes.
Ah, okay. That is interesting.
And the classic symptoms doctors often look for are sometimes called a triad. Problems walking, so gait disturbance.
Like the balance issues mentioned.
Exactly. Then urinary incontinence and also cognitive issues like memory problems or slowness of thought.
So it affects walking, bladder control, and thinking.
Those are the sort of textbook three, yeah. Though, as we heard in Billy Joel's case, hearing and vision were also mentioned alongside balance.
Yeah.
So the presentation can vary.
Right. And the shunt surgery is the main way to tackle it.
It's the primary approach, yeah. The goal is simply to reduce that pressure on the brain by draining the excess fluid. Success rates can vary. It's surgery, so there are always risks. But for many people, it does lead to significant improvement.
It puts his career into perspective, too, doesn't it? I mean, what an incredible run he's had.
Absolutely phenomenal. He's 76 now. Think about it. 5 Grammys, 23 nominations, selling over 150 million records worldwide,
Just staggering numbers.
and 33 top 40 hits, plus inducted into both the Songwriters Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Deservedly so.
And that Madison Square Garden residency, that was legendary.
10 years straight. It only ended last July in 2024. His 150th show at the Garden. Unprecedented, really.
And he even put out new music recently, didn't he, after a long break?
He did. Turn the Lights Back On, released in 2024. His first new single since way back in 2007. Shows the passion is still there.
Yeah. Did his family say anything recently? I think his wife spoke out earlier.
His wife, Alexis Roderick, yeah. Back when the postponements happened in March, she was quoted by Fox News. She said he was doing well at that point.
Okay.
She also kind of acknowledged his age, turning 76, and the fact that he'd been performing almost nonstop for like 15 years before that.
Yeah.
She really stressed that his health had to come first.
Sounds like she was very supportive and realistic about the demands.
Yeah, she described him as generally healthy, trying to work on himself, listening to the doctors. And, she mentioned how important his health is for the whole family.
Yeah.
They have 2 young daughters, Della and Remy, and of course his older daughter, Alexa Ray.
Right, family perspective is always important.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's sort of recap the sequence here. We had the fall on stage in February, then in March, surgery, physical therapy, and postponements, but with an expectation of recovery.
Right.
And now the diagnosis of normal pressure hydrocephalus, NPH, which has led to the cancellation of all the remaining tour dates, including the postponed ones.
That sums it up. NPH, that fluid buildup issue, mainly in older adults. Treatable often with shunt surgery, but clearly requiring significant recovery and management time, making performing impossible right now.
His commitment to health is clear, his apologies to fans are out there, and his musical legacy. Well, that speaks for itself.
Absolutely. It's a huge disappointment for fans, no doubt.
Sure.
And it really does highlight the physical side of being a performer, especially over so many decades.
Yeah, it really does. It makes you think.
So while the news is obviously sad for anyone hoping to see him live, the focus has to be on his well-being. We just hope the treatment is effective, he recovers well, and, maybe, just maybe, we'll see him back on a stage someday when he's truly ready.